service design more than UX UI design. Principal designers are people who are still very hands-on in design and really focus on making the best design possible. They're the people that everyone is like, they're the best designer, we want them on our project, they're amazing. So it's all about that high quality design and elevating the design and the work of people around them as well. And then the last one, independent consultants. Sometimes people really want to go off on their own, be your own boss, choose the projects you want to work on. But that also requires really showing your expertise, networking, getting people to trust you and purchase your services as an independent. So talking more about design management for director. This is really great if you like mentoring other designers, managing teams, delegating tasks, and being that people manager who can give thoughtful feedback, help designers with their goals, and really driving organizational structure and growth of the design team. So day-to-day responsibilities, for me, this is doing one-on-ones with people who report to me and helping them with their goals, talking to them about their projects. I may be talking with other project leaders or staffing teams about roles that are available and whether they're a good fit for people on my team. And at EPAM, our design managers and directors are still on projects as well. So I have daily meetings with designers on my project. We have stakeholder meetings. And then organizationally, we also have groups and initiatives that I help with as far as coming up with our processes and resources. And within this track, it's probably the area where there's the most opportunity for continued growth and advancement. But for people who really want to stay hands-on in design, this may not be the best path for you. So you can see a quote here from another one of the experienced design directors at EPAM, Rebecca Deary. And she talks about finding it so rewarding to be able to support the growth and development of a diverse team of experienced design practitioners. And I wanted to show some of the paths of some of the other people at EPAM on our team because not everyone has a very linear path to this role. So Rebecca started as in content. She was a copy editor. She then became an information architect and then a manager of user experience. And then she's been at EPAM for almost 20 years now, if you count Empathy Lab, where she was a senior UX designer and has now progressed to senior director. So how to get there? It's really important to find opportunities to mentor and manage other designers. So whether that's in a project team or having a formal mentorship program set up, that people management is key here. You also want to be able to show your ability to organize and drive design initiatives. So if there's a process or a methodology that you feel passionate about, being able to teach it to others and set up those processes within an organization is one step to take. Teaching and sharing design knowledge through presentations or conference opportunities is something else that demonstrates design leadership. And a strong portfolio is still important, but as you progress, it becomes more important about showing how you lead other designers and how you've accomplished something as a team, and less about your individual contributions as the designer. And some people end up getting an advanced degree when they get on this path, but it's definitely not, all the time. So strategic design leaders. At EPAM, we call these experience consultants, but there's a lot of different terms you may see: CX consultant, design strategist, and these are people who are very into research and understanding both the business problems and working with stakeholders to bring that customer experience and user experience into the forefront. So doing research, gathering data, synthesizing that data, and then finding ways to present it and communicate it clearly to stakeholders and teams to get everybody on board, working towards a singular product goal, and really having that user focus in the business world. So it's very senior in both what it requires for hard skills and soft skills for those types of communication aspects. So These folks are still contributors on teams, usually not going to be managing people from a formal resource management perspective, but still always guiding and working with a lot of different people moving towards a vision. So Parag is one of our experienced consultants. He talks about how it's really about being a systems thinker and connecting the dots between business and users and also technology and design. So setting up that North Star vision and then finding the strategic methods, understanding trade-offs, and helping teams make the right decisions. So Parag started with a Bachelor's of Engineering, switched over to product design, and ended up getting a Master's in Product Design, and then moved from visual design to UX design, got an MBA in strategy and innovation as he was becoming then an experienced consultant at EPAM. So this is a role where you're most likely to see like an MBA to have that connection with the business side and the design side, and a lot of different backgrounds. Some people come from more formal UX UI design, some people come from the research side, but it's really about being able to demonstrate how you can solve a design challenge from start to finish and bring others along. So framing the problem, running workshops with stakeholders, researching and presenting those findings really cohesively and clearly, and then following through to whatever the delivery is. So it takes a lot of work on soft skills and really being consultative, being someone that stakeholders and other leaders know that they can come to help solve problems and bring people together and really drive a design or a strategy vision. So principal designers, this is a pretty common job title, and usually this is all about really great design. So it's good for people who like creating super polished interaction designs, managing complex design systems, and really making the best designs possible, being critical of all the details. And then usually not directly managing other designers, but always overseeing, being like the most senior designer in a team that's going to help make sure all of the designers and everyone involved is creating really amazing work. So day-to-day responsibilities is still primarily UX or UI design, and overseeing those design outputs on a project, and then mentoring designers more so than managing them. And then obviously presenting designs to stakeholders, getting feedback, and really making sure that the end product is excellent as well. So this is the most common role for a designer who has a lot of experience and still works mainly as an individual contributor. It's kind of that most senior individual contributor title that you'll often see. So Arthur is one of our principal designers at EPAM, and he's been very focused on mobile design for a long time. So that's the area that he's really honed in on. He talks about always being a lifelong learner, understanding the new patterns, the new technologies, the new design possibilities that are out there, to always be on the top of his game in his design focus area. But Arthur started as a developer many years ago, also worked as an independent design consultant for a while, was a Flash developer when that was a thing, and he's also been at EPAM now for 16 years, progressing from mid-level to senior to principal. So again, how to get there? This is going to be all about having a really stellar portfolio of UI and interaction design. Principal designers may do some UX and research activities, but usually it's more about the visual design and the interaction design. And then also all of the micro interactions and details that come in with development, CSS animations, making sure that everything is just excellent and polished as it gets developed. It's also pretty important to work on complex product design, so mobile apps, enterprise applications. This is a common role on larger product teams, and it's less likely to get there with more basic website designs or marketing type design materials. So no specific design degrees needed, just really good design. And then the last thing we'll just talk about is, to contrast these roles, is what it's like to be a freelancer. So this is really, you can have whatever title you want if you decide to go down this path. And a lot of times people will do this if they really have a niche or an expertise that they're very passionate about, that they want to be a thought leader, and have that independence to choose their projects and be that hired gun for whatever it is that they're passionate about. It takes a lot of networking and sharing knowledge and materials to be able to get that presence in place and get that work independently. Day-to-day, it's doing the design work, doing the services that you're selling, but it's also managing your sales processes, managing invoicing contracts, and all of those things as well that come along with it. So creatives who decide to be independent consultants gain a lot of freedom and flexibility, but it also comes with a loss of security and stability when you're always having to be responsible by yourself for what's next. So going down this path is having a topic area that you're really showing your passion for, posting thought leadership on Medium, videos, social media, and doing a lot of in-person networking as well. Maintaining that online presence with website and portfolio, and then just making sure you're able to manage your own projects, your own time, and proper communications with all of your clients and things that you have going on. So, how to think about what your goal might be. Thinking about these 4 areas, there's questions you can ask yourself, or you can ask about people around you if you're helping talk to other designers about what they might want to do in the future. So, the people management side, do you enjoy mentoring other designers? Are you an extrovert that gains energy from interacting with others? You're good at managing your time and tasks of others. And then there's the strategic mindset. Do you enjoy challenging UX problems and ambiguous requirements, big problems that are hard to solve? Performing a lot of research and just guiding teams toward this vision of what could be possible in the future. Design excellence. If you're someone who wants to make sure every detail of your design project is absolutely perfect. If you enjoy structured designs, both from detailed design systems and making sure all of the layers in the document are in a good place. And giving attention to detail, micro interactions, and animations. Those are all more around that principal designer mindset. And then there's the independence, valuing that freedom and flexibility in a schedule, being entrepreneurial, and being passionate about being an expert in a certain area. So, choosing an organization. This is really critical because the same job title can be very different within different orgs. Working in a consulting or an agency would mean that you're working on a variety of different projects, industries, a lot of change every few months or so. And you work with a lot of different teammates and clients, often worldwide. It can be really fast-paced, you can learn a lot, but it often requires a lot of autonomy for you to jump into something new and hit the ground running, and that can be challenging. Enterprise organizations. This is basically any company you can think of that has a consumer product or telecommunications or transportation. Any large company has internal teams that have internal design systems that have their own products that they are working on and managing, and there's a lot of opportunities out there with companies you may have never even heard of. Often enterprise organizations have jobs that are more like reasonable hours, kind of steady, but it can also have some slow progress when you're in a large organization as far as changing processes or advancing. Sometimes they can be very monolithic and hard to just move the needle in certain situations. But oftentimes you're working with global teams, and that can always be exciting as well. Product companies. Product companies, we're talking about really high-profile tech companies and application leaders. And joining an organization like that, most likely as a designer, will mean that you'll be working on a single application or a single area for a long period of time. And that has its benefits because there's a lot of often testing and iteration and improvement that you can see happening. But that can also be, maybe you can get stale over time if you're working on the same product for 2 years. They also have a lot of roles for principal designers because we often have large product teams that are working together on those single applications for long periods of time. But they may be fairly limited in other design, leadership, and management roles. And then startup organizations, we're talking about companies with less than 50 people. They're often super fast-paced and exciting and require a lot of variety of responsibilities from the people on their team because they are small, which can also be stressful. And job security can be lower than less established companies. And internal processes are sometimes lacking. They may not even have HR, they may have no defined design process, and everyone's trying to figure those things out. So being a big fish in a small pond, for example, getting a title of creative director at a startup is very, very different than having that title at a large organization. So working at a small company, you'll take on a lot of responsibility, you'll wear many hats and work with a lot of different parts of the organization, and you'll be expected to have a lot of self-reliance and autonomy, which does give more freedom to make decisions, but it can also be more difficult to really develop that design maturity if you're working with a very small team. And sometimes it's difficult to show that leadership if you're looking for jobs at other places, if you've been in a very small company in the past. And then joining as one designer instead of a very large team, some of the pros to that are that there's usually a lot of room for growth and choosing your pace of growth. Large companies with lots of designers are usually fine if somebody's happy where they're at and they want to keep doing what they're doing, whereas other designers in that org may be very ambitious and always thinking about what's next, and there's room for them to grow quickly if they're wanting to. It's also nice because in a big company you often have more backup, so if you have to go on vacation or you're sick, there's a lot of other people who can help pick up and support whatever's going on. Sometimes in large organizations, growth can be limited if it's like a crowded field for like they're only going to promote one person and there's a bunch of people. It can sometimes be difficult to find a niche and really make an impact in the organization when it's so large. And there can be politics and a lot of different aspects that you'll have to go to and work through in order to make a process become a known methodology, for example. So mapping your path and thinking about where you might want to go. There's no single linear path to follow. We showed some of the paths, some from some of the other people at EPAM, and they're all very different. So just to tell you a little bit more about my background, I got a bachelor's degree in graphic communications, and the first thing I did was become a web design intern at a development company as the only designer. I then started full-time there, and they had me doing front-end development as well. So that was scary, but also exciting to be able to learn coding languages. And while I was there, a developer and I decided to start our own business. So for 4 years, we ran a company doing web design and development, and we grew to a team of 12 people. It was like very fast and exciting. But I was doing all this management stuff, and I was getting farther and farther away from design as time went on. And so I decided I wanted to go back and be a user experience designer. That was becoming a newer thing. We've been designing mobile apps since the iPhone came out, and I really wanted to hone in on those skills, learn more user research. And so I did that at Deloitte Digital. And then I got the opportunity for an experience director role at another consultancy. So it was a big jump for me in the title side of things, but I was able to show them that I knew how to do those things within that large consulting environment. So the organization was aligned, and they were starting a new team. So it wasn't like I had to come in and manage 15 people off the bat. It was about starting that gradually. So we'll talk more about that later too, about how to find those stepping stones. And then now for the last year, I've been at EPAM, and I've been super happy being a design director there. We have about, I think, 12 design directors in the US, and I'm the lead of the West Coast design team in the US. So thinking about the key levels of growth, when you're a junior or mid-level designer, you're doing the skills, you're creating the designs, you're developing yourself. Getting to that senior lead level, it's about making sure we're doing this all correctly. It's not always about just what you're doing, but also about what others on your team are doing and becoming a leader. Directors and managers are then thinking about how we're doing this. What are the processes? How are we working together and creating the best products possible that we're working on and managing others. And then getting to that super high level VP senior director, it's then about the vision and why we're doing things. So at EPAM, we actually have 5 levels on our A track that go from junior, mid-level, senior, lead, principal designer. And on the B track for managers and directors, we also have 5 levels that go from associate manager to senior director. And our experienced consultants also have a B track with 5 levels. So it's one of the things that I really like about EPAM is they have a very mature structure for our design organization with a lot of opportunity. And if you're here for the last talks, you may have heard about the assessment process, where as soon as a designer and the manager feel that that person is ready for the next level, they're performing at the next level, they can go into the global assessment presentation process. They don't have to wait for a certain time of the year or wait for, to fill just a few slots. It's very democratic and open in that perspective, which I really appreciate, and I haven't seen it in a lot of other companies that I've been involved in. So one tool that can be really useful if you maybe have this goal, if you're like, I want to be a design director someday, I don't know how to get there. Using how might we statements can be really helpful here. So that ultimate goal is to direct a large team. You might say, how might I demonstrate the capabilities of directing a large team? By becoming a design manager, by managing a smaller team. So how might I demonstrate the capabilities of managing a small team if I'm not a manager right now? That could be by leading 4 junior designers. And from there, it's maybe thinking about, well, how might I move from this informal mentorship of this other designer on my team to actually having, leading other designers. So finding those opportunities to step up and be a leader of someone more junior, and then have the opportunity to be the lead designer on a project. This is just one example of how you can kind of think backwards and find those little steps to get to the next place that you want to go. So just a few tips for job seeking too. Make sure that you're always customizing your resume and portfolio for the job that you're applying for. Like we just talked about, there's a lot of different roles, there's a lot of different titles, and they need different things at every organization. So it's always a good idea to look at whatever the specific job that you're applying and customize your resume to show exactly the details that you have in your experience that align with what they're looking for. It's always better to make sure that the job role and responsibilities align with what you're looking to do next, as opposed to just the title. And even sometimes titles are negotiable in organizations. And again, just finding the stepping stones. So, maybe you're currently overseeing a few designers on a project, and you're not a formal manager. You may want to look for a role that needs someone to manage a small team. And you can show how you've done that in a project setting, even if it wasn't your formal people management responsibility. And so it's okay to not have direct experience for every item on a job description. You just want to make sure that you're preparing how you can address each point that's in the job requirement, even if you don't have that exact history. So it should never be, in an interview, you should never say that, no, I don't have that experience. You should always be thinking and have something ready to say, well, I haven't done that exact thing, but this is what I have done that shows how I'm ready to take on that responsibility that you're asking. So that's it. At EPAM, we're hiring right now senior lead experienced designers with specialties in UX and visual design. And yeah, if these are any roles that you're interested in, you can talk afterwards. And I'm going to take just like maybe a few minutes for questions, and then I'll give a little extra time to our next presenters if we have it. No.
Hello, I would like to know how did you make that change from being a designer to become leader? I mean, which abilities do you think that maybe if I want to make that step forward, what do you think that I could take? And also, I would like to know at EPAM, what kind of software do you use as a graphic designer?
Okay, I'll answer the second one first. And a lot of answers to questions about EPAM are always, it depends. Because we're often using the tools of whatever our clients want to be using or are already using. So we do have a lot of projects now, and I know the preferred tool of most designers on our team is Figma. So that's the most common, but we also have clients who are using Sketch, are using Abstract and Envision, and we'll use those tools if they require it. And also things like Miro is one of our kind of more collaborative tools that we use with stakeholders in workshops and things like that. And as far as, again, thinking about how to become a leader as a designer, I think one aspect is around, presenting work and finding the opportunity to be the one to show and present what you're working on and have that communication and presence ability to present work, take in feedback, and really be able to work through that design cycle and gain that experience to be seen as the one on the team that is able to take in the feedback, to be the leader, to help guide everyone on okay, we heard these things, here, what do you think about them? Should we do this or that? And continuing to iterate. So that's kind of a first step. And then also being able to find ways to give feedback to other designers, to mentor other designers, whether it's finding someone who's in a college program who's looking for mentorship, finding ways to start to be more of a personal leader with designers, are some of the first steps that I think about. Anything else? Any questions?
Yeah, hi. So I was wondering, you mentioned that you had your own business. So what kind of a skill you brought from that experience to the directorship level?
Yeah, so when I started my company, it was pairing. I was a designer and we had a developer, and things really kind of snowballed from there. I didn't really think about the ways that I was being a leader, but I kind of had to be. I was actually very scared to have client phone calls, take a sales call. It made me nervous. So working on that over time, and yeah, at that point I wasn't really thinking about what I was doing. I was just doing whatever had to be done every day. It wasn't until years later that I kind of knew those skills that I gained. But I think that I've always kind of been able to just step up to some of the things I was just talking about, to present clearly, to not get flustered if I get feedback that I maybe don't agree with, to just roll with things and think about them and synthesize them and then move forward onto the next thing. So I think in consulting that's very important. We work with a lot of different clients, they have a lot of different things going on. Some are super awesome and easy to work with, and others are very critical and take a lot of time and energy to get through to the right solution. So just being able to work through those things and help others work through those things. I think that's something I learned from having my own business, of just being able to roll with things and figure out what the priorities are and move forward from there. I think I'm gonna wrap it up here, just a little bit early, so we can get, oh yeah, go ahead, carry one more.
Yes.
Got the mic, go ahead.
Hi, how are you? My name is Jaime. Sorry for my English, it's not perfect. I want to know what do you think, or what at the moment think in your mind change the shift, or what do you find in your work or role in the design that you do this for all your life? Yes. What do you find, or what do you think that you find in your role?
Yeah. I think for me, the thing that I discovered I really like is the people management and helping other people with their careers. For me, when I had those 4 quadrants, like I definitely personally gravitated more towards that people management side. Of course, I'm detail-oriented in design, but continuing to be that super hands-on designer, over time I didn't care about that quite as much. So I've always really enjoyed it with my own company and with being at EPAM, being able to help other people with their careers and progress. I think that's probably the thing that that makes me want to continue doing this. Okay, one more.
Sorry, I forgot to ask you. I'm curious about how do you treat stubborn clients?
Yeah, that's a good question. So obviously, being able to present our best case involving making sure that they're in the mindset of thinking about what their users need, right? Whether that's having personas, so we're talking about like their specific user groups and why we design things to work for their specific users, or conducting research, and if they're wanting one thing and we're wanting another thing, having some data to back up why that's the right decision. Having techniques like that to try to present and push things in the direction that we think is right. At the end of the day, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes clients do make an executive decision and they want to go a certain direction, and at a certain point we have to say okay and go along with that as consultants. But trying to get them to be user focused and understand the value to their users would probably be the main things to focus on. All right, thank you everyone for the questions. I'm going to wrap it up, and we'll hear from Adrian about UX maturity in organizations.